All right, today is our second day working on slope. And as a reminder, the term slope is also used to designate the rate of change, and it is also designated by the letter M. So we have slope, which is the same as rate of change, which is designated in equations by the letter M. So we talked about this again last class. So the rate of change is the common difference in our y values over the common difference in our x values, which also is the change in y over the change in x. Okay, and that's what we really talked about yesterday. Also, rise over run. What we're going to add on today is when we are given 2 points, to take y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So that's finding that change in our y over our change in our x. So to find slope, we use the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that equation right here will be ingrained in your head. We're going to have that down pat. So using that in some examples here, given 2 points, find the rate of change or the slope. So our 2 points here are 4 and 5, and -2 and -8. So what I'm going to do is designate this to be x1, y1, and the second point will be x2, y2. So if I write this out just to do a little extra work here, I have x1 equals to 4, y1 equals to 5, x2 equals to -2, and y2 equals to -8. Okay, you don't need to write that step out every time, but just sometimes it helps at first. So now let's find the slope. So we have m equals y2 is -8 minus y1 is 5 divided by x2 is -2 minus 4. So now we have to add the top together first. So -8 minus 5 is -13 divided by -2 minus 4 is -6. So what you need to look at now is simplifying things. We're going to leave our slope as a fraction. And we talked about this again last class, but as a reminder, we leave slope as a fraction. But we have to simplify this because we have a negative divided by a negative, which becomes a positive. So now I have 13 divided by 6, and that's my final answer. That's my slope. So let's take a look at number 2. I'm going to have my first point is going to be x1, y1. My second point is going to be x2, y2. So I have m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which equals 5 minus 5 divided by 0 minus 3. 5 minus 5 is 0 divided by -3. So let's take a look. Oops, let me split our screen here a little better than that. All right. So let's take a look in our if we open our calculator here, we have 0 divided by -3, and that equals to 0. So our slope is 0, and that's our answer. And what we're going to notice here is we have our 2 5s are the same. So what that means, if you guys remember back that I can say that means hoy, right, when we did hoy bucks. So hoy means if my y's are the same, then my slope equals to 0. All right, let's take a look at number 3. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So slope equals y2 minus y1. And see how I used parentheses here? And that's because I had a negative number. So then I can divide by x minus x1. So this gives me 4 plus 8 divided by 1, which equals 4 divided by 1, which I'm just going to write my slope, I can get rid of that calculator there, equals to 4. And you can always use your calculator if you need help doing some of the adding and subtracting. That's not a bad thing to check your answers. All right, last example here, x1, y1, x2, y2. So slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Negative 3 divided by negative 1 plus 1, because a negative and a negative made a positive. So negative 3 over 0. Now this is the part that we have to, oh, that didn't work. Check. So if we did negative 3 divided by 0, we get an error code on our calculator. So no matter what type of calculator you're using, you should get an error code, or an error, which means my slope is undefined. And you need to write that word, undefined. So below this, we have a little solving review. So these are proportions. And when we solve proportions, if you remember, we did the butterfly effect here to cross multiply. So I had 7 times 3 equals 7 times x plus 4. 21 equals 7x plus 28. Minus 28 from both sides. Negative 7 equals to 7x. Divide by 7. X equals negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to have you try C and D. So the next step, which is a little more challenging, is to find an unknown variable or an unknown point when we're given the slope. So we're given the slope equals 5. We're going to say this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So my slope, and we're going to start with our whole equation here just so we can fill in the variables we know. So I know my slope is 5. y2 is negative 5. We're looking for y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So we know 5 equals negative 5 minus y divided by negative 5. Now we have to solve. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 5. So that cancels. So I have negative 25 equals negative 5 minus y. And now I can solve. Y equals to positive 20. So this is really combining two skills. It's combining what we know about slope and also what we know about solving equations. So let's look at B. Again, I'm going to just designate my y1, my x1, y1, and my x2, y2. So now I have my slope, -2 equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So -2 equals, we have a negative and a negative, so that becomes a positive. So -2 plus 6 is 4 divided by 3 minus x. So now I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 minus x. That will cancel. 4 equals, here I'm going to rewrite this so that I can distribute. -6 plus 2x equals to 4. I'm going to add 6 on both sides. I'm going to have to go up to the next column here. And I have 2x equals to 10. Divide both sides by 2. X equals to 5. Good. So let's talk about real world scenario then. So a real world scenario to find the rate of change in miles per hour from time 1 to time 2. So here it seems like somebody may be driving and how many hours they're driving or even riding their bike and how many miles they've gone. So we want to find the rate of change in miles per hour. It says from time hour 1 to hour 2. So I am going to, if we want miles per hour too, that's key to note that miles per hour would look like that as a fraction. So miles is going to be my y, right? y1, y2. And hours is going to be my x, x1, x2. So my change in my miles is 20 minus 10 divided by my change in my time, which is 2 minus 1. 10 over 1. So my change in time is 10 miles per hour. Okay, so that rate of change is also like a speed limit if you want to think of that. Find the rate of change in miles per hour from time 4 to 6. Okay, so 4 to 6. So it's going to be the same concept, y1, y2, x1, x2. So we want miles per hour. So my change in miles is 60 minus 40 over 6 minus 4. 20 over 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 10 miles per hour. The third question is going to ask me, is my data linear? And explain. So is this data linear? Okay, hopefully in your head and what you wrote down was that yes, it is linear, right? Because I have a constant slope. Right? These are the same. Okay, and we'll stop right there with our notes for today.